Good morning, everyone. Seems like we have a few people trickling in now, but just wanted to welcome you guys all. I'm here from College of the Desert out in Palm Desert, California. Today, in this breakout session, I'll be talking about our implementation of the ACUE program, specifically the class on effective teaching practices, on how it works to improve student success through our improved instructional practices. So throughout the presentation, if you guys have any questions, feel free just to chime in. I don't mind taking a little pause and answering a question immediately. Or if you want, I will try to save some time at the end of our session today for just a general question and answer, but please don't be afraid just to chime in. I'll take a quick pause and we can go from there. Is the presentation going to be shared? I do not know about that. Do you mean the PowerPoint? I can do that, yes. I mean, I will get in touch with the event coordinators and have it sent out. Let's see here. Of course. All right. So it seems like we have enough decent number of people in here now. We'll get into it. So I first want to introduce myself, as my background has a little bit, it's not the most typical background when it comes into getting into teaching. And it's sort of the background why this program can be so effective to be used at your institution to improve your instructional practices. Let's see here. All right, so my background, I got my Bachelor's of Science in Exercise Physiology back in 2012 from the University of Miami. From there is when I figured I actually wanted to go more into the field of physical therapy. So I'm actually a physical therapist by trade. Education is a new venture for myself. And throughout my time as a physical therapist, once I graduated with my doctorate back in 2015, I've been practicing out in the Coachella Valley for approximately 4 years. With that opportunity, I did do some clinical instruction as well as work with students one-on-one. And I did get the opportunity to do some guest lecturing at COD, or College of the Desert, which sort of opened my eyes more to the instructional as well as classroom setting of teaching. I found out in 2018 that they had the interest to develop a PTA program, or a physical therapist assistant program, and we're looking to hire a program director. So throughout my time, I applied. I was lucky enough to be hired. So I started actually at College of the Desert in the fall of 2019. The thing is, I've actually never been an instructor in a classroom. And while I'm working on developing this program, I am teaching in the kinesiology department. But luckily, COD had already preemptively started this ACUE program. So all new faculty members get placed into this course on basically effective teaching practices. Because before that point, all of my exposure to how to teach primarily came from my observation of my teachers from undergrad, high school, and graduate school. And just because that's how they teach does not mean that is the most effective way. So I was thrilled to find out they had this program, because I mean, to be honest, going into this, I was a little nervous. Never led a classroom before, never developed lesson plans. So I was getting myself into this whole new world, and this program has been great for me. It's been a continual resource I can look back to when I'm working on developing my classes, especially when we've moved more to this online format in the past year. They have resources for that as well. So I want to dive in, talk a little about why College of the Desert brought this program to the school, as well as what are actually the details of the program, what are the nuances of it, and how can it affect your students and your institution to achieve the greatest amount of student success. So who is ACUE? ACUE is an association of college and university educators. Their primary mission is to ensure student success through quality instruction. They have developed a number of different credential programs, like the one I mentioned, the effective teaching practices, and they also have a number of smaller micro-credential programs. But I do want to quickly show you guys a little promo video from ACUE. Since I am not a formal representative of ACUE, I wanted to make sure that you got the full picture of what their mission is and what their purpose is, because they do a much better job of sharing that than myself. So quickly, I'm going to stop sharing the PowerPoint. And I'm going to now share my Google Chrome. Let's check this box and share. Hope y'all can see this now. And
we really believe that we have an obligation and an opportunity to create student success. You create student success not by putting it all on the backs of students, but by having a faculty who can talk and teach and listen and learn themselves.
In many ways, effective teaching has been the missing link. I don't think we have acknowledged that the most powerful tool, the most powerful source that we have to make a real difference in student retention, success, and completion is effective teaching.
It's not that the students aren't college ready, the universities aren't student ready.
When I started teaching, quite honestly, I had no preparation for teaching. I had an extensive amount of training in the content area, various content area of mathematics, but none as far as teaching was concerned.
My expertise is in historical musicology, and that's all I knew: how to do research, how to write papers, and present it at conferences where everyone's quiet for 20 minutes and I just speak.
Having just gone through a PhD program and experienced academia from only one side of the classroom is not enough to prepare you to lead a classroom effectively.
We talk about investments in student success. We also need to be thinking about investments in our core asset of our faculty, and that's what ACUE is.
We founded ACUE with one objective, and that was to prepare and credential faculty in the evidence-based teaching practices we know work. Doesn't matter whether faculty teach in a community college, an R1, a public state university. Faculty needed to be prepared to use the practices we know help students learn. We developed a 25-module online course designed to prepare faculty in using the evidence-based practices shown to increase student engagement, learning, and motivation. How do you design an effective course? How do you create a productive learning environment? How do you engage students actively in learning, whether it's a lecture, a discussion, a small class, a large class? How do you promote higher order thinking, making sure students are applying their knowledge, synthesizing information, creating things? And then how do we use assessment to both inform my practice as an instructor and to promote learning in students? This is the core set of knowledge and skills one needs to be effective in the classroom.
At first I was afraid because I'm an old dog. It's hard for me to learn new tricks sometimes. Taking the ACUE course has immensely allowed me to enjoy teaching. I am seeing progress with the entire class, not just 3/4 of the class, not just half the class, but the entire class.
The ACUE course, first of all, validated aspects of my teaching in which I was confident, but then it also introduced me to other techniques and considerations that made me a better teacher.
Remember, we're not afraid of mistakes in here.
Once you get that draft back with the feedback, you can rework that.
Who else? Yes. We're going to do a quick think, pair, share.
I call it a fishbowl discussion.
I want to talk to you now about growth mindset versus fixed mindset.
We're going to have a brief quiz this morning to get started.
You can get out the skeleton notes.
I've also created what we call a graphic syllabus.
I want to hear everybody.
The return on investment that we've seen has been tremendous in terms of faculty engagement, in terms of student persistence, and in terms of student engagement.
In a number of our hardest courses, we have seen a dramatic drop in our what we call a DFWI rate. And seeing those students who perform at the A, B, and C level going up by 5, 10, even 15 percentage points. ACUE has been truly transformative.
I believe that every instructor in a classroom, online course must be prepared to teach well. Our students deserve it. parents of our students, our communities all deserve it.
I feel that as presidents of institutions, we have an obligation to make sure that every student succeeds. That is the commitment, that is the promise that we need to make to the students.
The ACUE course should be institutionalized at the highest levels. That's where the revolution goes on. That's where the real transformation in student learning can happen.
If you want to be a better teacher for your students, this is the program you should take. It was the most important investment I have made in my academic career, hands down.
All right, just want to share that message from ACUE. So I'm going to stop sharing this now, and we'll go back to the PowerPoint. Share screen. So hopefully you can see the PowerPoint again. So that was the general big picture of ACUE and their overall mindset of improving instruction to improve student success. But let's get a little bit more into the specifics of one, how COD or College of the Desert adopt the program, and then the program itself, so you have a bit of a better understanding of what are those 25 modules, how is it set up, how can we move through it, and what does the specific data show? Does it actually show student success improvements in grades, and how does it work on closing upon those more struggling demographics of students? So College of the Desert was lucky to bring this program in when we, one of our faculty members got volunteered to participate in the Chancellor's Office first cohorts to try out the ACUE program. And that faculty member then became our new faculty developmental coordinator. And while she was working on developing a new faculty orientation, she believed that it was very important that we include ACUE as part of this year-long faculty orientation here at College of the Desert. The rationale she brought to our higher-ups in our Guided Pathways program is that when we're hiring faculty, a lot of times when we have CTE programs, other programs, we're looking to hire subject matter people that have subject matter expertise. It's not always hiring a person that has the best teaching ability, because we want to bring the people that have a knowledge base to our school to teach these technical components. Then incorporating ACUE in their effective teaching practice course will then get our new faculty members on the right foot, then hopefully start adapting more of these evidence-based teaching practices compared to just teaching how they were taught. Maybe some people were exposed to great teachers, but of course sometimes a lot of our teachers were just solely lecture-based, and a lot of times that's not the most effective way to reach all of our students, as the differences in learning styles vary greatly. So at COD, we are currently in our third year, our third cohort of members of our faculty in the ACUE program. So every single year we enroll all of our brand new full-time faculty members in this program. And then for the other open available seats, we typically open it up to approximately 30 faculty members per year. And each year we have somewhere around 10 or 12 new faculty members. So usually we open it up on a volunteer basis or a first come, first serve. Any faculty member that wants to join is more than welcome, as long as we have the open seats. So we have already funded it for 3 years, and then Guided Pathways will be funding its fourth cohort starting in the year 2021 going to 2022. And another aspect of this program is the fact that once these teachers are trained, not only are they themselves becoming improved instructors, but the reach that they can have throughout the college is huge. Each faculty member probably has whatever 4 to 5 potential classes each semester. Each of those classes may have up to 50 students. So the number of students that are impacted by just specifically addressing 30 faculty members is huge each year. It has the ability to stretch beyond just the faculty members, but into the students, their success, completion rates across the entire college. So it's one thing that even though we're not initially training all of our faculty members, but by training even these small bits here and there, the reach to our students has been huge, and it's something that we really want to continue on for as long as we can. Of course, with Guided Pathways funding changing after next year, it's something that we're going to have to consider from a college basis. All right. So specifically, I want to talk about ACUE's course on effective teaching practices. This is a class that's supposed to ensure faculty learn and implement the approaches that improve engagement and persistence and promote deeper learning. ACUE developed this class by over 14 months of doing research. They consulted with the nation's leading subject matter experts. They surveyed over 1,000 faculty members, worked with over a dozen pilot partner colleges and universities, and conducted a comprehensive literature review. ACUE held faculty focus groups, partnered with teaching and learning centers, and engaged in conversations with college and university leaders nationwide to identify the essential evidence-based teaching approaches to promote student success. So they did this overarching wide research because they wanted to find what are truly the most effective teaching practices that are evidence-based, and then of course demonstrate improved student success and completion rates. So to look at, before I talk about the individual models, I want to show you guys some of the research behind some of these pilot programs and success they saw at their individual colleges and universities. So what is the impact of these teachers staying in this class? So let's first look at down at MiamiDade College, which is down in Florida. They had 78 faculty earn their ACUE credential in 2018, and then they evaluated the student success across 220 course sections that were now taught by these ACUE credentialed faculty members. And the best thing they found is they found statistical significant improvements in the average grades of courses taught by ACUE credentialed faculty from the fall 27 semester before they started to 2018 after. So at MiamiDade, they actually evaluated the same faculty members prior to taking this class and then to the end of that 2018 semester when they were finishing up. And over that period of time, they found that those teachers had statistically significant improvements as compared to their own self prior to taking the class. The average GPA for these students in these faculty members classes was a 2.84. But then afterwards, the same faculty teaching the same class, in their classes now, the average GPA was a 3.03. That's a 0.19 increase, and it's equivalent to 19% of the students in each course improving a full letter grade on average. So showing that we have improved student performance is huge, because not only does that allow for improved completion, it allows for our students to stay on the path and not have to remediate or retake courses, so that it actually helps them finish their classes more efficiently. San Francisco City College. They also were one of the pilot programs, and they had similar positive results. So they had 35 members complete the course, and they specifically at San Francisco City College focused on faculty members that were involved in classes that had achievement gaps, had a large number of underrepresented minorities, foster children, and our non-traditional students. Their outcomes came from doing course data as well as student questionnaires. And just like in MiamiDade, there were significant improvements when looking at the rate of students getting A's, and of course, the number of students that got F's significantly decreased as well. So based off these ACUE credentialed faculty now, 226 more students received A's, when 95 fewer students received an F, when comparing the same sections from an ACUE credentialed instructor to a non-ACUE credentialed instructor. Then of course, on top of that, with the student questionnaires, students also have significantly higher self-monitored self-efficacy. And self-efficacy is one of the components of academic mindset that promote academic performance through academic persistence. So not only were the students performing better, but they also viewed themselves at a higher level, which is going to help with persistence in their study without affecting that potential dropout rate, which is huge. Another one of them, we have the Delta State University. They saw a 4% higher rate of earning A, B's, C's, or credit in classes taught by ACUE member faculty as compared to people that were not trained through ACUE. So when adapting these ACUE practices, the students at Delta State University saw significant improvements in getting those passing rates, moving on and continuing on with their program. And there's a quote from their one of the members, the provost and vice president, was, "We have improved the prospects of 88 students, approximately 12% of their current freshman class. And we've also increased the odds of graduation by graduating nearly 3% more of our students." So with just Delta State involving faculty that were involved with 144 sections, they were able to improve graduating nearly 3% more students. So even without training everyone, even getting these small pockets of teachers is making significant improvements across the colleges, improving graduation rates, performance in classes, and completion. So completion is great, but also another thing I look at students is also their satisfaction. And also faculty. How do faculty view this program? Do they think it's valuable? Do they see improvements in themselves? So Miami-Dade College actually partnered with Johns Hopkins University to do a fairly large study. So Johns Hopkins, in collaboration with Miami-Dade College, they studied over 6,100 student course evaluations. ACUE faculty received statistically higher remarks compared to college-wide averages. Students perceived stronger instruction across 14 of the 15 indicated areas for both new and experienced faculty. Some specific areas faculty improved was providing regular feedback on student learning and progress, creating an atmosphere that encourages learning, presenting information clearly, and assigning relevant coursework. So the students perceived that the environment in the classroom, their ability of their faculty to teach all improved. Not only that, but also the faculty improved their own ability and their confidence to use these techniques. And the faculty, actually 100% of the faculty recommended the ACUE course to their peers. So not only do the students succeed, the faculty are seeing the value as well and want more of their peers to participate and engage in this program. So when looking at student success, it's great that the overall arching body, but a lot of us in a lot of different schools, there are different achievement gaps between different demographic areas. And one of the aspects of guided pathways as well as improving instruction is, why are those gaps existing and what can we do to reduce those gaps, to improve instruction, to create more equity amongst all of our students? So looking at Broward College, they did a more of a specific look at success amongst some of their special populations. So they did a study looking at their Pell eligible students as well as their African American Black students and wanted to see how did they respond to instruction done by faculty that had the ACUE class. So Pell eligible students taught by ACUE faculty were actually 1.5 times more likely to complete their course than a Pell student taught by a non-ACUE trained faculty member. Pell eligible students of faculty were 1.2 times more likely to pass as compared to their students taught by the non-ACUE faculty members. And then of course, there always is an initial gap. So the gap in likelihood of passing courses between Pell and non-Pell students was eliminated. Pell students went from 1.1 times less likely to pass their course to just as likely to pass their course as the non-Pell eligible students. So there was an initial gap of these Pell eligible students being less likely to pass a course, but when they were being taught by an ACUE faculty member, that basic gap was eliminated and all students had equal ability or equal chances to pass that class. And now when we're evaluating and looking at our African American students, so Black students of ACUE faculty were 1.15 times more likely to complete their class and 1.17 times more likely, Black students began at 1.17 times less likely to complete their class as compared to white students. But once they were taught by an ACUE faculty member, that gap was actually fully eliminated. And now looking at their ability to pass the class, not just complete it, Black students improved their chances of passing a class by 1.14 times. And when looking at the gap, the gap started at 1.4 less likely to pass the class than their white students. And after being taught by an ACUE faculty member, the gap was basically cut in half. And then African American student was only 1.2 times less likely. So there still is a gap, but the gap is substantially reducing, improving the equity and ability of our faculty to teach equally and see equal success amongst all of our demographics. So a similar study at the Texas Women's University, they looked more and they saw there was a direct trend in seeing that between looking at the 2016-2017 year, there was a difference between the completion of their Black and African American students compared to other students. And then after being taught by an ACUE faculty member, the gap was actually reduced or actually improved, that their Black African American students actually were completing classes at a higher rate than the rest of the population at Texas Women's University. So it's great to see these improvements across all demographics, improving and reducing these equity gaps amongst all of our students. And then this last one here doesn't look directly at student success, but it's more looking at that return on investment. Of course, it's hard to carry this directly over to every institution and potentially your institution, because every school, state receives their funding differently. But at Delta State University, they actually basically use developed a tool that can estimate their return on investment based on their initial faculty of 17 people that completed ACUE. They used it based off of understanding with improved success rates, improved passing, improved completion, improved graduation, generally does improve funding to an institution. When just 17 of these credentialed faculty members went through the program, they tracked the change in success rates amongst their students, and they estimated that just after 1 year of these members teaching, they had a return on investment over 5 times of what they actually paid for those 17 faculty members to take this course. And of course, as you continue to extrapolate it, of course, there's a number of variables that must be considered. These faculty members must keep teaching the same number of classes, the same number of students, and they also need to maintain the same level of success rate they had after their first year. But after just 5 years, basically the amount you paid for these 17 credentialed faculty members to go through this program, the return on investment was 32 times over 5 years. So that's just a potential number that if you need to potentially try to justify why this course is valuable, why we should continue on with it, it shows that there is efficacy, that there is a return on investment. Of course, we're here at teaching institutions to teach predominantly. We want to see our students succeed, students move on and have success. But of course, funding does matter too. So if we can justify that there is a return on investment on improved instruction, then hopefully I can justify maybe why our school can continue on training more and more faculty members amongst this ACUE program. So I want to dive a little bit into what actually makes up the ACUE program. And I do realize that I saw the time we don't have a ton of time left, so I'm not going to dive as deep into each section as I was hoping to, but I'll still give you a basically overview, give you a better idea of how the class is set up. The Effective Teaching Practices course is made up of 5 primary different areas. There's a section on designing an effective course, establishing a productive learning environment, using active learning strategies, promoting higher order thinking, and assessing to inform instruction and promote learning. In each one of these areas, there are smaller modules. Each one of these areas has between 5 to I think 6 different individual modules. When I went through this program, our school set this class up as a full year. So we started in the fall, finished in the spring. Approximately, you do about 1 module per week, so it's not so overbearing. And you also have the ability to choose the order that you take the modules in. So you don't need to complete area 1 first and go to area 2 and so on and so forth. You can actually determine, well, what's the best way or what's the most efficient way that we probably should present this information. For myself, I was greatly surprised that, or very happy that our school chose to mix it around because I learned a bunch before my first day of teaching, and I did not quite realize that there were certain ways that you should structure your first day of class that can promote and improve student learning. So let's dive into that a little bit. All right, so within our first area of designing an effective course, there are 5 different areas. We have our first module, which is establishing powerful learning outcomes. In this one, faculty are learning how to write course learning outcomes and effectively define what students will know and be able to do at the end of the course. So are you able to write specific outcomes that are going to really define what students will learn by the end of this class and course? Next one, aligning assessments with course outcomes. You're going to learn how to design assessments that most effectively and efficiently allow students to demonstrate mastery of course outcomes. Next one, we have aligning activities and assignments with course outcomes. Faculty learn how to select activities and assignments that are aligned to the cognitive level of their learning outcomes, both with their in and out of class time. So it's important that we make sure we're evaluating Bloom's taxonomy, understanding what we want the student to gain out of it, and are our assignments and assessments properly aligned with the level of critical thinking and cognitive level needed for that outcome. Here's one, preparing an effective syllabus. There are certain ways that we can design a syllabus that really helps communicate the essential information and facilitates student success. And this last one here is, how do you plan an effective class session? You'll learn how to effectively leverage each portion of the class session to positively impact student learning. The module will include techniques designed to begin class, which actually has been shown to be the most critical learning time with a powerful opening. So it's how to use the time, your breaks, and each thing to help with success. Let's move on, and then let's move on to the next one. So now, establishing a productive learning environment. And this is the one that kind of jumped out at me the first. So luckily, our school had module 1 of this one first. So leading the first day of class. In my mind, I just kind of thought you just hand out your syllabus, go through it, and all right, you're free to go. But they go through some different ways to start building a community of learners, implement active learning strategies to help students understand course expectations. So there's certain things we can do on the first day to start truly engaging our students to promote that environment of success. And I am going to have to start speaking a little bit. I'm sorry, I'm running out of time here. We'll just go through each one. So promoting a civil learning environment. How to properly connect with your students. What are some techniques we can use to get better student engagement, kind of relate to them on their level, and sort of just kind of open up that barrier between yourself and the students. A lot of times that can be very intimidating to the students. Motivating your students, how to set goals, how to get students to be more involved in their own learning. This next one's one that I found very valuable too. Engaging underprepared students. Of course, we have students that come in that may not be fully prepared, but how do we still get them to engage and hopefully get them up to that level we're expecting them to be at for a certain class they are now enrolled in? Helping students persist in their studies. And then embracing diversity in the classroom. Certain techniques can be used to kind of help cross some barriers and make students more open to share their ideas and open up. All right, third area. Using active learning techniques in small groups. How to properly use active learning techniques in large groups. Of course, when you have a class of 100 versus a class of 20, some techniques may work, other ones may not quite so well. Delivering an effective lecture. How techniques can be used to get people to be interested, involved, how to segment different information. Next one, planning effective class discussions. Setting up parameters, making sure students understand the expectations so they're more involved. That's a huge part of that. Facilitating engaging class discussions. How to get under participators to participate more, and how do you get that person who wants to talk the whole time to maybe take a back seat? let's see here, the next one. Providing clear direction and explanations. Make sure your students fully understand what is expected of them. Using concept maps and other visualization tools. How can you help students create these different tools for themselves to help study for tests, connect information from one section of the class to another section, potentially a different class in general, or even a profession? Teaching powerful note-taking skills. How can you provide information to them to hopefully improve their note-taking skills? Using advanced questioning techniques. Developing self-directed learners. How do you get a student to take responsibility for their own work? That's a very important thing. And our last one, developing or delivering fair, consistent, and transparent grading practices. Developing and using rubrics and checklists properly. Providing useful feedback to your students, make sure it's timely, enough detail that they understand what's going on. Checking for student understanding. How to check those on a regular basis. Understanding that how their responses can let you understand how you're doing. And that's what this last one is that's very valuable. Using student achievement and feedback to improve your own teaching. So understand that based on how my students are doing, it's a direct reflection on my own ability to teach. And if I have a lot of student success after a certain lecture or a certain way I present information, keep using that. But if for some reason something underperformed, take some notes on it, understand, and how can we modify it for the future? So thank you guys all. I want to leave these last few minutes here for anyone who has any questions. I'm sorry I went a bit long, so we don't have quite as much time for questions, but I'll stay around afterwards if anyone wants to talk about it a bit more. The chat. You're welcome. So if there aren't any questions, or if you guys want to wait till a few people die off and just want to ask me some questions one-on-one, I want to stay on for a bit longer, but I do appreciate everyone joining me. I'm glad I was able to share a bit about this program because, like I mentioned myself, when I came to the community college, I'd never taught before. Every single one of those new modules was new to me. Like I said, our school structured things differently. So the first module they had us new faculty was, what should you do on the first day of class? And I popped up and I went through and I was like, oh, wow. I need to truly change how I'm going to go about the delivery of my information, how I'm going to interact with my students, because in my mind, I mean, going through grad school and undergrad, that was when the first day of class was. You'd show up, you'd sit down, they'd pass the syllabus out, you'd read through it, and then the teacher would let you go early. But this program really kind of powers home that the importance of setting expectation on the first day, developing that community, talking with your students on the first day, starting to begin that sort of interaction among students. Because a lot of times, some of those students, they're first-time college attendees, they don't know what to expect. And if you can create that sort of that community base in the class, it's huge. So this class was something that I really appreciated taking. I was glad it was offered to me. But if there's no questions, you guys are more than welcome to head off. It's probably, I'm not sure you have next or not, but you might have lunch or something, but I'll stay on for another 5-10 minutes. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to hang around. But if not, you guys are free to go. And thank you guys for joining me. Yeah, so I don't know the specific cost. I do know when I have put the request in for our school that in the past, we've requested between $30,000 to $40,000 to cover the cost of the implementation and all the materials for our 30+ faculty members to go through. So it's not a cheap class, but if you look at it as a full year-long training, compared to a lot of Con Ed, it's fairly affordable. And plus, you also are able to keep the materials and references back to the videos that they provide to you for, I believe, additional year after you finish the class. So I think in general at College of the Desert, we usually have put requests in for between $30,000 to $40,000 to cover the complete cost of implementation, having a faculty coordinator, and also some follow-up sessions as well. So the faculty are not compensated. It is so for the people that we make it mandatory for, which are new faculty, it is part of their new faculty orientation. And at COD, based off of our current contract with the school, we're required to do on average, I believe it's 2 hours per week of committee work. As a new faculty member in your first year, that is waived for the new faculty orientation. So it basically takes the place of your committee work is going through this program. So you're not paid extra, but you also don't have the committee work. There's no direct, like you don't earn direct units to a college. Myself personally, I have used this class as the equivalent of 3 units of graduate level instructional teaching when I was actually applying for an aspect of the PTA program, and it was carried through quite easily. So it probably depends on maybe where you're planning to use that, but it's a great learning tool. Yeah, so great question. Thanks, Trish. All the modules are presented and developed by ACUE themselves. So you'll watch some videos, you'll do some discussions, you'll have some activities, and then after each module, you need to do a self-reflection or discussion of how you implemented one of the techniques in your own class. Then an approved ACUE grader will either approve your work and give you a check mark and knock that module off, or you'll have to redo it. At our school, we have a faculty member that was in charge of implementing it. She hosts about one session once a month where all members of previous ACUE cohorts and current ones can meet together in an informal setting, and we can share what worked well, what didn't work well, and it's just kind of an open discussion. So all the teaching is done by ACUE, but we do have a faculty coordinator on campus who does coordinate some informal sessions as well. But unfortunately, that's all the time we have for questions. If anyone does any additional questions, I'll put my email down here in the chat box, and you're more welcome to send me any questions. Edu. All right, so my email is now in the chat box. Any additional questions do pop up. Feel free to send me any of your questions or comments. But again, thank you guys for joining me, and enjoy the rest of the conference.